Welcome to Strength for Today, presented by George Sidney Mkandawire. Today, I would like to speak to you about covenantal reading and why scriptures must be approached as sons and not servants. Many believers read the Bible faithfully, yet they read it from the wrong relational posture. They read as hired hands looking for instructions, not as sons seeking inheritance. The problem is not discipline. The problem is identity. A servant reads to comply, whilst a son reads to align. When scripture is read without covenant in view, the word becomes external. When scripture is read within covenant, the word becomes formative. Let's look at Hebrews chapter 3, verse 5 and 6. And I'm reading from the New American Standard Bible, the 95 version. And it draws a deliberate contrast. Verse 5. Now Moses was faithful in all his house as a servant, for a testimony of those things which were to be spoken later. But Christ, verse 6, was faithful as a son over his house, whose house we are if we hold fast our confidence and boast of our hope, firm until the end. This is not a comparison of usefulness. It is a comparison of relationship. Moses served within God's house. Christ functions as son over his house. The Greek word for the word servant in verse 5 is the word therapōn. Therapōn refers to an attendant who renders faithful service, yet does not carry ownership or inheritance in that which he serves. Therapōn describes one who works within structure but does not shape it. Servant is present, but sonship is absent. In contrast, the word huiothesia speaks of a mature relational positioning, one who bears the character, authority, and continuity of the Father. A servant preserves what exists. A son carries what must continue. This distinction matters deeply when you approach scripture. Servants read the Bible to find tasks, while sons read the same Bible to discern nature. Servants ask, "What must I do?" while sons ask, "Who must I become?" Covenantal reading begins with this settled truth. You are not reading to earn belonging. You are reading from belonging. Exodus chapter number 19, verse 5 and 6 makes this covenantal foundation clear. Verse 5. Now then, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, then you shall be my own possession among all the peoples, for the earth is mine. Verse number 6. You shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words that you shall speak to the sons of Israel. Observe the following. Before the law was given, identity was declared. Before commands were issued, covenant was established. The Hebrew word for possession is segullâh. And this segullâh refers to treasured ownership. something set apart not for use, but for relationship and continuity. Israel was not chosen because of performance. They were chosen for inheritance. When scripture is read without this covenantal awareness, fear governs interpretation. When scripture is read covenantally, love governs obedience. Servants fear punishment, while sons honor alignment. John chapter 8 and verse 35 brings this distinction into sharp clarity. And this is what it says: the slave does not remain in the house forever. The son does remain forever. Temporary access belongs to servants. Permanent dwelling belongs to sons. Believers read scriptures as temporary occupants. They look for survival guidance instead of inheritance patterns. Yet, the Bible was written by sons, preserved for sons, and fulfilled in the Son. It cannot be rightly handled from a servant's mindset. Romans chapter 8 and verse 15 says, "You have not received a spirit of slavery, leading to fear again, but you have received a spirit of adoption as sons." The Greek word for adoption is huiothesia. It describes placement into sonship with full legal standing, not emotional sentiment. Adoption in scripture is not rescue from abandonment. It is positioning for inheritance. This changes how you read every command. Instruction is not control. Instruction is preparation. Correction is not rejection. Correction is refinement. Covenantal reading, therefore, demands responsibility. Sons cannot plead ignorance because sons carry legacy. Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 6 and 7 says the following: "These words which I am commanding you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your sons, and shall talk to them when you sit down in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up." The word was not meant to stop you. It was meant to pass through you. Servants preserve tasks. Sons transmit life. If you read scripture only for personal inspiration, you cut short its purpose. If you read scripture covenantally, you become a carrier of generational order. This exposes why many churches struggle with maturity. Too many leaders read as servants managing duties, not sons governing inheritance. Servant reading produces progress. Son reading produces structure. Servant reading seeks permission. Son reading walks in alignment. I have watched capable leaders exhaust themselves trying to obey God while never settling who they are in Him. Activity increased, but authority remained thin. Covenantal reading stabilizes the inner man. It removes the anxiety of earning and replaces it with the weight of stewardship. Ask yourself honestly, do you approach scripture looking for instructions to perform or formation to embody? Do you read passages selectively to validate decisions or comprehensively to submit to design? Do you read as one outside the house or as one responsible for its future? When scripture is read as a servant, obedience is mechanical. When scripture is read as a son, obedience is relational. Neglect this posture and believers remain dependent on external motivation. Recover this posture and sons begin to govern in their inner life and outer assignments. The Bible does not invite you into religious employment. It invites you into family responsibility. Covenantal reading, therefore, demands surrender. Not surrender of effort, but surrender of autonomy. You do not get to define truth as a son. You carry it faithfully. You do not reshape covenant to fit preference. You mature into it. If you want authority without intimacy, scripture will frustrate you. If you want intimacy without alignment, scripture will correct you. If you read as a son within covenant, scripture will form you. The word is not a manual for servants. It is a constitution for sons. So whenever you read it that way. Grace and peace to you. I'll see you in the next episode.